used by days until they grew out again. All the bees at breakfast, even they had work to do. Unlike you, now that you got so far ahead, would you go back? You know you meant everything you said. Would you go back? All these empty wishes, all these walks down memory lane, they'll haunt you again someday. Now that you got so far ahead, would you go back? You know you meant everything you said. Would you go back? Oh no. Would you go back? Would you go back? There you go.
Do you meditate at all?
I've tried to, because it's hard. I actually managed to like actually meditate once, because like people always say like you lose sort of like track of time in that when you get to do it and you feel like a clarity or whatever. It was when I was back in Spain and I had like 4 hours to kill and I was in town and I was like, oh god, what do I do? And I just sat next to the ocean and just closed my eyes. And then I opened my eyes and it was like 20 minutes had gone by and I was like, oh wow, I actually meditated there. That was good. But I've never managed to do it again.
Have you tried to do it again? It just hasn't panned out, or?
Yeah. I try it sometimes, but it's not something that I do regularly,
Why do you think it worked that time? Was it the ocean, or what was it that was kind of feeding into that?
I don't know, man. Probably the weather had a lot to do with it, yeah. Because it was nice and warm and sunny, and I could hear the waves, and I was quite,
Does that ever happen when you're making music? You're speaking about that there, where the 20 minutes kind of just disappeared.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll be writing a song or like recording in my flat, and it's been like 3 hours, and I have no idea,
Is there anything else in life that can do that, or is it kind of are those the only two times you've really experienced time just getting sucked away like that?
Well, obviously when you're with like, that is what they say, like time flies when you're having fun, So when you're with your pals and that, I guess it can feel like that, but yeah, nothing like when you're making music, for me at least, therefore.
I mean, I guess the reason I was asking about meditating is because of the opening track on the new record.
Oh yeah.
That song's more kind of about a specific person, though, kind of a song written, or it kind
Yeah.
of felt that way. How does writing a song with a person in mind kind of impact the way that you approach it and you approach the writing of it?
Oh. Well, that's an interesting question. I mean, like the thing with that song is like the whole album, as you probably know already, it's about like going through a breakup and shit. But like, I never like, I always have like certain experiences and certain like memories in mind, but I always try to like make it a bit more general and a bit more relatable when I'm writing it. Like I get the general idea for it, and you get the general feeling for whatever you wanna like, whatever I wanna talk about. Once I get that mood, I'm like, okay, like I never write purposefully like, oh, this line's about you, you know. It's just to get me into that mood, and then I try to make it as like relatable, I guess, as possible.
How do you start thinking about the listener at that point, or does that not really come in when you're speaking about trying to make it as relatable as possible?
I guess so, yeah. I guess so. Especially with meditation, because like in the end, I'm saying that like that person is my form of meditation. You know, that really wasn't about anyone. That was more about like the ideal of that person. You know, like the perfect partner or whatever that like, you know, you can like go to them and it's like everything's okay. You know.
Yeah, just someone who has that ability to make everything alright and kind of clear your head and kind of
Yeah.
reset.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it.
Can music ever do that? What kind of role does it have when it comes to kind of like mental health and that idea of like kind of just resetting and going back to base level?
Oh, definitely. Definitely think I can do that. I've got some fireworks.
I was waiting to say, sorry, yeah, someone's setting off fireworks at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Thursday. Classic Glasgow.
There's no Guy Fawkes night yet, is it? No.
No, it's got a while away yet.
Oh, what was the question? Sorry.
Can music play that role for you in mental health, like that idea of bringing you back to base level and resetting?
Yeah. I think so. I mean, I don't think it happens that much to me because I like, maybe I'm wrong, you know, but like I can imagine a lot of people that make music have like all of these like healing qualities and like all this mysticism about music sort of like doesn't really work anymore because we just listen to music constantly and we listen to it from a different perspective, you know. But for a lot of people, yeah, I can imagine it does.
Has the way you listen to music changed as you've kind of grown up?
Yes, yeah, defo. I mean, usually I would listen to music mostly like while traveling, either to school or like work or whatever. And obviously with this pandemic happening, we can't really go anywhere. I've started to listen to less music, just not even because I want to, you know, just because it doesn't really happen. Like, but yeah, no, definitely. Like when I was younger, sometimes I would just like stick on an album, like just in the house, and I would sit and listen to it. I can't really do that anymore. I don't know why. I need to be doing something else. You know, it's half like half listen to music all the time and half just being anxious and being like, oh, I need to be productive all the time. Oh, I need to do something. You know.
The tracklist themselves tell a narrative, and I know we're speaking a wee bit about it being a breakup record. Are all the songs about the one person?
No. It's more about what I was going through in my head at the time. You know, like, well, also like some of the songs are older songs that never made never made it for Quiche. I write a lot of stuff, and the band goes to a different pace. So there's always going to be like leftover stuff that we never even touch. So like, I think there's 2 songs in the album that are leftovers. But I felt like the lyrics and the sort of the general theme went well with the rest of the stuff. So I was like, I'll just stick it in there and give it a second life, sort of. But yeah, no, it's more that it's just more about the general sort of mental process I went through after that breakup, you know.
Did you write it at the time, or did you write it kind of looking back on it?
I think it was a year. Yeah, it was about a year after. So yeah, definitely looking back on it.
How had your headspace kind of changed in that year from the specific moment, or that kind of period in your life?
Oh, loads, man. Like, coincidentally, when that stopped, we started doing loads of stuff with Quiche, you know, and that made me be way more like secure in myself and just feel much better about myself. So after that whole year of like things happening and recording and going and meeting people and stuff, you really do get like a different perspective, and you go like, whoa, okay, and you can sort of like look at all that from like a passenger seat instead of like having to like, oh, you know, work all that through, and you can sort of like take a step back and say, oh, okay, so that's the way it went.
You get a slight sense of finality from it as well when you do that. Like you're not in the midst of it, so you can kind of wrap it up and you can have it be a more kind of whole thing that kind of has a start and has a finish and goes on a journey through it.
Yeah, totally. And even for me as well, like, it's just a way to like close a chapter in a way, you know.
Did it help with the closure of it?
Yeah, definitely. Defo. Just getting all those thoughts out and sticking them into a song, it's like, it's good. Good for my head.
Had you communicated them out with music, or was this the first time that you kind of put them into words and put them into the world in that way? Was it something you'd spoken about before you went on to like working on the songs?
Oh no, yeah, totally. I am the kind of person that will talk about it. I'll speak to like some of my pals from home. Like good old pals. You can always talk to them. So yeah, I'm definitely a talker.
I guess it's kind of then, by the time you come around to writing the song, you've started the communication process. Like you've already kind of started to work out what you want to say with it because you've had to vocalize it to someone else. Yeah,
exactly, man.
At what point did the story of the album emerge for you, and did you kind of work out where you wanted it to begin and end, and did you have certain things that you wanted to discuss in it about that experience, and certain things that you felt needed to be there and present?
Not really. Like it wasn't really that much like planned at all. It's all came sort of together when I did Meditation and Last Goodbye, which is the last song in the album, because they're quite similar. They're basically the same sort of chords in the verse, but I think it's like a tone or 2 tones up, the last song. So it's sort of like the same theme. When I wrote those 2 songs, I was like, oh, wait a second, I can put this here, and that makes a thing, So, good.
They're slightly different in emotion when they tackle the same thing. Like The Last Goodbye it's got a slight tinge of kind of hope and optimism about it and kind of looking to the future, whereas Meditation feels slightly more mournful. And although I know we're speaking about a hypothetical person, it does kind of have a sense that it's looking back in a slightly not gloomy, but more downcast way, overcast way.
Yeah, like a sad nostalgia sort of thing. Yeah, I mean, I think it represents quite well the sort of like the process of a breakup. You start sort of looking back on all the good times, and you're like sad because you're not gonna have them anymore or whatever. And then at the end, you just realize that like, just life moves on, and you just, people go through this, and you just do it, and you learn from it.
At what point? How long does it usually take for you? Not even just necessarily about a breakup, but in life, how long does it take for you to start to feel nostalgia about something that's happened? What's the kind of time frame? How long do you have to wait after an experience before you start to get that tinge of nostalgia coming in when you think about that memory?
I guess I couldn't tell you exactly, but I mean, I guess sort of like about when the memories stop feeling fresh. I guess I don't know if it's like a year or 6 months or whatever. Depends on what you're up to at the time. If you're busy or not.
Have you ever been in a moment before where something's happening and it's a really kind of joyous experience and you get that really weird tinge of like slightly depressing thought that I'm going to feel nostalgia for this pretty soon, and you're kind of aware that it's like slipping away?
Yeah, that does happen. It's weird. I try to, that's one thing I've learned. Like I try to be in the moment as much as I can. And I think people should really do that as well, especially with this lockdown business. Like, the more present we are, the better. Because, at least for me, if I think too much about the future or the past, I just get the fear, I
think it's if you're thinking about the past a lot, you end up getting depressed, and if you're thinking about the future too much, you end up getting anxiety.
Yeah, that's it. That's right.
It's true though. Like At what point did you start feel like you? At what point did you kind of come to that realization that living in the moment was kind of the best way to go about things? Have you always done that? Have you always been someone who's quite present?
I was up to like, I don't know, probably like, because when we were young, it was about like 4 years ago maybe when that relationship started. Actually, that's when it. I don't know if it's because it coincided with like me growing up, or if it's just a random occurrence. But when that started, growing up and stuff, it's like, just the more worries you have in your head, I think the less pressing you are, like, especially with like, oh, I need a job, what am I going to work, what am I going to work on next, like, all these like adult questions are definitely an anxiety trigger or depression trigger, depending on what you're focusing on. But yeah,
Do you think being a musician makes you think more about the past or the future?
definitely the future for me. 'Cause, I mean, I have wanted to be a musician since I was quite young. Before I left school, it was all like very far away still, and I wasn't really thinking about it properly. I was just more like dreaming about it. Now when you get to this, it's like, oh shit.
Was
you
that
know?
part of what fueled the move to Glasgow? To try and get a wee bit closer to kind of what was going on?
Yeah, exactly, man. But I didn't even like. I moved to Glasgow because of SAS, because I didn't pay uni fees because of the whole EU student thing, which is probably gonna go now with Brexit. But
When did you move here?
it's September 2013.
Oh man, that's a while. I didn't realize you'd been here.
Mhm.
It's a while back.
Yeah, 7 years, man. Doesn't feel like 7 years.
How was that when you first came over and started off? Because I imagine it's quite a culture shock.
Yeah, and especially coming from the Canaries, because like even in mainland Spain, there's like a bit more of a music scene when it comes to like bands and that. And in the Canaries, oh my god, man! Like when I was there, and I was doing my old band there, I didn't really know anyone my age who was in bands at all. Like maybe a few people, but like it wasn't very. It wasn't as normal as here, Like I moved here and I was like, wow, there's like shit happening everywhere all the time. There's so many people, there's so many bands. Like, yeah, definitely a culture shock.
Was everyone that was in bands older? Were there a lot of bands kicking about in the Canaries, or what was the kind of?
And no, not really.
Yeah.
Like mostly you get like just older people doing like blues cover bands and stuff like that. Mostly for like tourists.
Did you manage to find any inspiration in that, or was it not particularly?
No, not really. Like when I discovered Arctic Monkeys when I was about 15 or 14, actually, my cousin showed me it. I totally I was just obsessed with indie rock, obsessed with the UK scene, like just absolutely obsessed with it. And yeah, I completely disregarded everything that was happening where I was, physically. And I was just like, oh, the UK, this fable land of music and fun, you know.
I always find it fascinating how they resonate, or that first record in particular resonates all over the globe when it's so, like you say, kind of specific to Britain. Like a lot of the references and stuff in it are so tied to this culture, but yet it has this ability to impact people everywhere in completely different. What do you think? What was it that was striking you about it? What was it that was hitting you and inspiring you?
Well, actually, the first thing I heard of them was Humbug, Crying Lightning, that tune.
Man,
That was I remember my cousin showed me the song and I was like, wow, this is crazy. And then I remember it was on MTV, they were playing the music video. And I was like, oh, that this is that song that she showed me. Shit. And I just like listened to it for like a whole week non-stop. I don't know what it is, man. I think it's probably, I mean, they were sort of like one of the big indie rock bands, So it was, I think they were the first like indie rock band that I ever like properly discovered and loved, because before then I was like, I had a rap face, and I was also into like System of a Down so much. I still am, by the way, one of my favorite bands, no doubt. But yeah, I don't know. I was into Green Day quite a lot as well, but that never really like grabbed me as much. Like, I think it was just the coincidence of me being 15 and discovering indie rock, which is a very like teenager sort of thing, isn't it?
I mean, over those, I know you kind of mentioned going through a rap phase, then System of a Down and Green Day and Arctic Monkeys. I feel like the common thread is that there's a real kind of controlled, chaotic energy there present in all of those bands. It's kind of channeled and so explosive.
Yeah.
But this record is kind of the polar opposite of that. It's a much kind of softer, more intimate offering, kind of hazy. Is that kind of tapping into a different side of you than the side that loves all those indie bands, or where's it coming from?
Yeah, no, totally. It's totally a different side of me. Before, like the year before I wrote those songs, I discovered Wilco, and I'd never listened to them before in my life. I don't know how that happened, but I'd never listened to anything. I think it was Chris McCrory who showed me.
Is it Jeff Tweedy? Is that their frontman's name?
Yeah, Jeff Tweedy. I mean, to be honest, this album is sort of like a concept thing that I wanted to do just because I was really into Wilco at the time, and you know, the sort of like acoustic / band thing, you know, like Andy Schauf and that sort of thing. So yeah, I just thought, why not? I could probably do this. Let's give it a shot. But I don't know. I like a lot of stuff. Like with Quiche, I think we're exploring more of that dramatic sort of side of me with Quiche. We're trying to be a bit more rock band in that sense, I guess.
It's interesting that there were a couple of Quiche songs that didn't make it to that group, but kind of came here. What songs was that on the record? What 2 tracks is that?
It's Scared, which was called Cardboard Sunset, but we changed the title so it wasn't confusing for people. And the other one is Time to Go.
I could hear Time to Go. It's kind of a wee bit heavier.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. I mean, you can tell I was trying to play that with the band, you know, there's a bit more like electric guitars and stuff. But I don't know, it didn't feel like it would be a good... Yeah, I don't think it's like the Quiche vibe at all. It's like way more like shoegazy sort of. That song reminds me of Yuck a lot, which I've also been into for a long time.
Were there versions of either of those songs that existed as Quiche songs, or did they never really get that far?
No, never. We never. I don't think we ever. I think Time to Go, we practiced that a few times, but it never really took off. Yeah.
How do you think taking those 2 tracks out of that kind of soundscape, though, and putting them into this kind of slightly hazier, nostalgic thing, affects the way, like, the kind of emotional core of them is, and how that kind of impacts the listener? How does that work? What kind of impact does it have?
It's just sort of like the way you dress it, isn't it? Because like in the end, you can take any song and like strip it down to a voice and an acoustic guitar, and I guess part of songwriting is realizing what. I mean, obviously everyone's process is different, but if you have a song with lyrics and you already have like an emotion that you're like conveying with it, a big part of conveying said emotion is dressing it well. I imagine it like a doll. Like imagine a naked doll. There'd be like the song with an acoustic guitar and vocals, and then you can put like a cowboy hat on it or like a leather jacket on it, you know, and you dress it in a certain way.
You're my form of meditation. Meditation.
does it always start with the core of the song then in the lyrics? It never begins where you might have a soundscape and kind of put words atop it.
Yeah, no, usually I leave lyrics till the end unless I'm very inspired and something comes up because I think I'm pretty bad at lyrics generally. Like part of it is because I'm Spanish and I'm like writing something and I'm like, does this even make any sense in English? Like I don't know, I need to look it up. I need to look up what I'm writing because I don't want to make a fool of myself.
I think that can be really beautiful because it gives it a slightly different perspective and it has a slightly different flow to it. Like the way that you hear the English language as it being your second language will be different to the way that I hear it, and you'll probably hear like a different kind of musicality
Yeah,
in it that
yeah,
can
I
then
get
translate.
you. Totally. Yeah, that's my excuse. When I say things wrong, I'm like, I'm not saying it wrong. I'm just a poet.
Did you originally start off writing songs in Spanish?
No, that's one thing because I have had people ask me before if I would or if I had, and I've never written a song in Spanish ever. I don't know why. It just never happened.
And you've been kind of like speaking English all your life as well?
More or less, yeah. I learned it in school, and apart from that, I have family from Southampton, and they used to come to the Canaries in the summers and that when I was really, really wee. So I guess I got like used to hearing it. And apart from that, I mean, my parents showed me like Beatles and Queen when that's like my first musical memories. So I don't know. I guess I've got like a good ear for it or for languages in general. I don't know.
When they first showed you like Beatles and Queen, if you were saying you're quite aware, I take it you weren't 100% kind of fully versed in English at that point. How do you think that affected the way that you responded to them? What was it about those songs that was translating, even though you couldn't understand the exact meaning of what was being said in them?
Defo just the energy and the music, particularly the music, man. Because like when you're really young and you hear things for the first time, it's like way more impactful. I don't know. Like I actually have a memory of like playing during break, just playing outside and fucking singing the lyrics to "We Will Rock You," but making them up. But in my head, I'm like, yeah, this is what it is, and it's just this tune. But yeah, it's not even. That's why I don't worry too much about lyrics because at the end of the day, it's the whole thing, that people are gonna listen to. It's the whole song, and a lot of people don't even pay attention to the lyrics. So
I think especially when you mentioned that "We Will Rock You" there, the core kind of driver of that is the melody, and it is the kind of rhythm of it, and the intensity, and the energy, and the intent.
yeah, exactly, man.
So was this record? I mean, I know we've been speaking about the presentation. When it comes to the recording of it, was most of this kind of done at home?
Yeah, I did the drums at our rehearsal space, but the rest of it I did at home. Yeah.
How had your headspace changed from when you finished writing the songs to when you finished recording them? Like over the kind of process of properly assembling the album, how did your kind of headspace shift in relationship to the songs?
I mean, cause see the thing, like when I record demos, they're like quite like well depends on how much time I've spent with them, but like usually I'll really get into it when I'm doing demos and I layer it quite a lot and I add a lot of stuff. Like I was even thinking of just releasing the demos as the album because I was like, I mean it's all done, but I'm just gonna have to record everything again, like put it out. But no, the only reason I didn't do that is because the demos have MIDI drums and it's just not nice.
Doesn't have the same warmth.
Yeah, no, yeah, totally. It's just not the same sound at all. I mixed the album and that like I'm sure that I'm gonna look back on it next year and I'm gonna be like, oh my god, I should have mixed it differently or whatever.
And obviously you go into the studio with Keish and stuff and your other projects. Making this one at home or working on it and recording it at home, did it feel differently working on it when you're in that space as opposed to being in a studio?
Yeah, definitely. Because when I'm at home, I'm very comfortable and I can just sit and do it the whole day if I want to. I can take a break, I can go make a coffee, I can do whatever. But when you're in the studio, well, first of all, every second you're in it is money. You're paying for the time, so you need to, make the most of the time. And also, recording with a band, especially if you're recording live, is like a totally different experience. because it's not just you. You need to work with everyone, and everyone needs to work with each other to make sure everything's cool and tight. But yeah, recording myself, I would say I prefer it, but it's just a different experience, really. I guess I prefer it because I do like being by myself, generally speaking. But yeah, very different, very different.
Were there things you learned from working on this record yourself that you wouldn't have learned had you done it, like as part of a collective? Were there new kind of lessons that you took from it?
Well, the biggest lesson is, yeah, have like a specific schedule, and like actually say like, right, I'm gonna finish this in 2 weeks or like in a month, whatever time frame you set for yourself, because that's like, I could have finished it a while ago, but I just took my time with it, and I was just doing it when I felt like it, and that's fine. But in the future, I'm definitely gonna say like, right, I'm gonna take this much time to do it, and I need to finish it by this.
That possibly feeds into it a little bit though. It is quite a languid kind of record. It's quite relaxed, and it feels like quite a natural way of kind of presenting the story of it as a result of that.
Yeah. I guess you can tell through the recordings that I was quite relaxed when I was doing it. Therefore, took my time with it.
Where is Bandama Drive for you as a place?
Right, so the place I grew up, well, not really grew up, but like the place where my parents live now is like, the area is called Bandama. The drive thing is, the last three or four addresses I've left in Glasgow have had the drive, like they've been drives. So I'm kind of playing with like the whole like memory lane thing, like it's a mixture of like the past and sort of the present. Bandama Drive, And that's like that headspace of like looking back and looking forward.
Do you think about home quite a lot?
Not really, to be honest. Like not normally. Like during the lockdown, I have been thinking about it a lot, because I was gonna go back for summer, but that didn't happen. So yeah, I do kind of miss it these days, but not that often, really. When I'm busy here, because I'm sort of lost in the moment.
I feel like once you get into that place when you're in a band where you start putting things in the calendar and you start working towards things and planning, time just seems to speed up because you're constantly like, moving on from one thing to the next, and it just accelerates faster and faster and faster. Yeah,
exactly. Like 2019 was like that for me, defo.
Does it change them when you do go back home? Does that switch when you have like a period of kind of time where you're in one place? Does that idea of things kind of accelerating and constantly moving forward, does that kind of fall away a wee bit and it becomes a more natural kind of just space? Or how does time kind of differ when you're back there?
I always say to my friends, because they never, people like my friends from Scotland, they never, well, like the first reaction when I tell people I'm from the Canaries is, why are you here? And I'm like, well, I can do what I want to do if I'm there, so I'm here. But therefore, like, one thing I always say to my friends is like, when I'm there, time just stops, really. Everything's like, my times are like pauses, which I guess it can be good at times, when I'm like, oh, I need a break. I can go back and chill for a bit, but I can't be back home for longer than a week, otherwise I start feeling like it's a mixture of like fear of missing out and anxiety, like, what am I doing here? I need to be there and like going to places or like writing more or whatever.
It can go the other way as well though. Like when I think about home, it's weird whenever you go back and everyone else has kind of moved on and developed, or sometimes even the way that things just stay the same.
Yeah,
like you go back and all these people are kind of still in the same place, and you've changed and moved on quite a bit, and it can be jarring.
Yeah, definitely.
Because you've changed and everyone else has stayed the same, and you kind of need to change together in order to stay friends with people.
Yeah, totally. A lot of friends, I mean, people that I used to hang out a lot with, I don't really talk to at all anymore. But I guess that those things happen. But yeah, I get you. Like, a lot of people that were in my school are basically just, as you say, doing the same thing as they've always done, and just staying with their parents or whatever, which is fine. But like, I feel like I'm definitely going through like a different. I'm doing a totally different thing, and it stops being relatable. Yeah, it's quite strange.
When you go back home, do you learn things about yourself? Like when you speak to those other people and notice that they haven't changed, do you kind of get a reflection and see how you have changed as a result of that?
Definitely. I mean, in a lot of senses, like particularly politics. I don't want to get too much into it, but like you grow up with like your friends, and then everyone sort of like separates and does their own path, and then when we meet again, we've had like different experiences and stuff, and we think differently about things, and you realize like, whoa, this guy's saying some stuff that I never thought he would say, but well, and I guess they could think the same about me. But yeah, that's just the way it is.
Yeah, I get you. I think when you're in that place, it's a little bit. I don't know. I've been to the Canary Islands. I don't know how it'd be like to live there, but maybe a wee bit cut off and kind of its own community and its own thing. Yeah, so you kind of maybe get views that aren't particularly accepted elsewhere that are still able to circulate there quite freely. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I feel like I'm more outspoken about things I disagree with or feel are wrong now, which is what often causes clashes when I go back. Because people who I was maybe at school with that say things that I don't agree with, I would have just let happen, and now I feel more compelled to argue with people about it, or not argue, but have a discussion.
Have a discussion. Yeah, totally. And we've had like we've fallen out over things, but at the end of the day, we did like grow up together. So you kind of just learn to live with it, because like at the end of the day, what you want is to like not even to like get them to your side, but just to see both sides of the coin, to like be able to empathize with people. But you can't force that onto people, so you just have to kind of learn to let it be when it needs to just be for a bit, and then maybe come back to it later on.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the one thing I would say is that these people are always quite open to discussion because they think they're right. They want to speak about it, so it does make it easier to speak about it in some ways. But yeah, I don't know. People are always going to disagree. It can be interesting to have these conversations, though, like you say, and see the other side of the coin. Do you think your views would have been quite different to what they are now if you'd stayed there?
Maybe, man, probably. Yeah, I went to private school, right? And they weren't particularly like right wing or left wing or whatever, but they were mostly like very open people. They did teach us to be quite open to things in general. So, but even then, like a lot of people have just like still stayed in that sort of bubble of privilege, I guess, and not really like even made an effort to like meet other people outside of that bubble. And I'm not saying that I'm here like the fucking like I pure know everything about everyone and stuff, but like I don't know, I like to think that I can be empathetic with different.
I feel like after you leave school as well, class becomes a much bigger thing than it was in school. Like when I was in school, I don't really recall anybody speaking about it. Some people lived in bigger houses, some people lived in smaller ones, and it wasn't really a thing. And then I remember I left school at 17 to go to uni, and you go to uni at 17, and suddenly that seemed to be a thing that everybody spoke about all the time, was like how much money people had, and it was a weird kind of knee-jerk turn.
Yeah.
I guess once everyone starts caring for themselves, they become a lot more impassioned about it and spiteful in some cases and open in others.
Yeah, totally, man. Like, that's the thing about this. Like, no one really chooses when, in what conditions they were born, and like who your parents are, and what do they do for a job, and what house you live in, and that. But it's that approach, like I have been like defensive about it in the past, but at the end of the day, it's just learning to be open and to like not assume things just because of your background. Don't judge people because their parents do whatever. Just judge them by their actions and what they say.
Was there ever like a movement or a subculture that you felt like a particular affinity with growing up?
No, not really. Not at all, man. Like that's one thing that was also quite a difference. Maybe just because I went to private school in Spain, but like we never had like the emos or like the goths or whatever and the nets and blah blah blah. You know, like I never really like I like a lot of different music. I'm like my tastes are quite eclectic, but I was never a part of like a scene at all. I've just been me this whole time.
There's something quite nice about that, though. It kind of being a melting pot of all these different ideas and cultures and opinions, and I guess that kind of ties into what you're saying about being quite open.
Yeah, totally.
When was the last time you heard the record that's away to come out? When did you last listen to it?
I don't know. Oh, in fact, I think last week I had to change the master. So yeah, probably last week I had to change a wee thing there. But
when you listen to it, what song provokes the strongest emotional reaction for you?
probably, I don't know, probably Meditation. I don't know what it is about that song, but like, I guess it just sets the mood right. You know, it gets me into that sort of headspace.
It feels quite pure. Like it's a very kind of whole idea.
Yeah, that song came out quite fast actually when I wrote it. I actually remember, because usually I'll write music first and then I slap lyrics on top, whatever it is. But I think this one was one of the ones that I came up with the sort of like main riff idea, and then I did like a little like singing melody thing, and I was like, oh well, that can actually work, and it just it just sort of happened.
Maybe that's part of it. The idea that it kind of just flowed out and was this kind of fully formed thing from the beginning.
Yep.
If you had to dedicate the record to someone, who would you dedicate it to?
Probably to myself. To be honest, like I don't know, because it's more of like it's kind of like writing a diary in a way. You know, like I'm putting down all these feelings, and then when I go back to it, I'm like, right, okay, I was feeling that. I don't know. It's just a bit of a reminder to just chill out and move on.
I could not release the inspiration till you asked me to. Came at your body relentlessly throughout the year. Too far away to nearly show this honeymoon. I was a stranger, too familiar and not enough. But I once saw the touch of your velvet hand upon my face, and I recall velvet gloves and spit in your embrace, and I wanted nothing else. The haunted hotel room, the two-bit man child. I could not simply fall asleep next to you every night. Our castle in the sand, built too high too soon. And on the waving palms and waving sails and waves, goodbye. But I once saw the touch of your velvet hand upon my face, and I recall velvet gloves and spit in your embrace. Oh, and I once saw the touch of your velvet hand upon my face, that I recall. Velvet gloves and spit in your embrace, and I want